That didn't work out as Feely washed out in Miami in under 2 years. They sent another second-round pick, this time in 2006, to Minnesota in exchange for Dante Culpepper, but once more, Culpepper didn't experience the long-term success in Miami that the Dolphins would have hoped for. In 2007, in the draft, they spent their second-round pick on John Beck, who is no longer with the squad, and then in 2008, quarterback Chad Henne out of Michigan was taken in the second round by Miami, and then, of course, this trend culminated in April when the Dolphins spent their second-round selection on Pat White. The fun part about it is, with a guy like Bill Parcells, you can expect the unexpected. Traditionally, he has gone against the grain, and more often than not, that has put him ahead of the curve. He's never been afraid to try new things, to set new trends, and to make the unpopular choice. Just think back to the 1980s. How many times did we see Parcells' Giants teams go for it on 4th and short, sometimes from inside their own 30, sometimes as early as the first quarter of the football game? You'd see the Giants' backup quarterback Jeff Rutledge line up as the personal protector in the punt formation. Before you know it, they're shifting into a goal line formation, and he's running a quarterback sneak for a key first down to win an NFC East matchup. Parcells didn't care that the rest of the football world thought it crazy to do these types of things. He ran the numbers and felt confident that more often than not it would help his football team to try it, so he did. Don't let Bill Parcells' 3 plays in a cloud of dust approach trick you. Make no bones about it. Yes, the guy likes a challenge, but also, yes, he is a risk taker. And if you don't believe that, ask yourself, what type of man would come out of retirement to assume the responsibility of trying to turn around a 1-15 football team? Because that's exactly what Bill Parcells did when he took over in Miami. As a fan of the game, it's hard to contain your excitement when you consider what things might look like when you take a weapon as dynamic and as versatile as Pat White and throw him into the mix in Miami with a visionary like Bill Parcells, and a staff that includes a quarterback coach like David Lee, who started this whole Wildcat frenzy when he was at Arkansas with running back Darren McFadden. The sky is truly the limit in terms of what we might see with the Dolphins. It's impossible to forecast what they might have cooking. The scenarios run wild in your head. Are we going to see Pat White lining up as the holder on PATs and field goals, setting the stage for any number of fake attempts? For that matter, are we going to see some specially designed package, be it the Wildcat or some facsimile thereof, which puts Pat White in position, maybe even in the first quarter of football games, to line up and help the Dolphins attempt 2-point conversions? It's difficult to say. There's no way to know what we might see. What we do know is when you consider Bill Parcells' penchant for breaking trends and put at his disposal a player with abilities as unique as Pat White's, anything is possible. Another benefit White will have in Miami will be the company he'll be keeping in segment meetings. Dolphins veteran starter Chad Pennington provides the perfect counterpoint for a raw, young quarterback like Pat White to learn from. Where White relied to a considerable extent on talent and ability to flourish at West Virginia and dominate the Big East, that becomes a lot more difficult to do in the NFL, quite frankly, because the speed of the game shell-shocks even the most talented rookies. Pennington's a self-made player and would seem to be the ideal tutor for a player like White. Pennington's savvy, he's selfless, he's the consummate pro. That was evidenced by the active role he took in helping a young Kellen Clemens learn the game in New York even after Clemens had taken Pennington's job as the Jets' starter. Pennington's a quarterback who has always mastered the little things and has always played within himself, and in doing so he's quietly become one of the most efficient passers in the history of the pro game. His interception avoidance rate is one of the lowest in NFL annals, and his 66% career completion rate is actually the highest in the history of the league. Pennington knows where to go with the football, and just as importantly, he knows where not to. These are 2 key traits that can serve an aspiring young gunslinger like Pat White very well. White's time with and behind Pennington will no doubt go a long way toward making him a more well-rounded quarterback. Miami's historic turnaround from 1-15 2 years ago to winning the AFC East crown last year was one of the biggest stories in the entire NFL. But the Dolphins are no longer flying under anyone's radar. And with the entire AFC now gunning for them, sledding could get a lot tougher in 2009. It would seem the best-case scenario for Miami, for Pat White, and for Mountaineer fans wishing him well, would see the Dolphins making a mad push for the playoffs, with White passing, running, wildcatting, maybe even holding, faking, and catching his way toward the eye of a media storm the likes of which the NFL hasn't seen since a rookie named Cordell/Stewart captured our imagination during the Steelers' Super Bowl run way back in 1995. Make no mistake about it, if the Fins do succeed, Pat White will play a role in it, maybe even a key role. If so, he could end up being one of the biggest NFL media darlings of 2009. And oh, by the way, just in case you have your old gold and blue satchel packed looking to hit the road and catch Pat White and the Fins during his rookie season in the NFL this year, your best chance at doing so will be at Bank of America Stadium, when in November, 11 months after scorching the North Carolina Tar Heels in the Meineke Car Care Bowl, Pat White returns to the scene of the crime in Charlotte to face the Carolina Panthers on a Thursday night game nationally televised on the NFL Network a week before Thanksgiving. This game represents the closest the Dolphins will come to the Mountain State during the 2009 season. And another date that bears mentioning on the 2009 schedule, that's December 27th, when former West Virginia teammates Steve Slayton and Pat White square off in Miami as Super Steve's Houston Texans head to Landshark Stadium to take on Pat White and the Miami Dolphins. Now, again, for those of you hoping at some point in the near future to catch Pat White and the Dolphins, one other point to make about Miami's schedule: yes, they do in fact close their regular season this year in Miami in early January against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Again, that's in Miami. But because the way the NFL schedule works, cycling through divisions every 3 years, I can tell you that the AFC East, the Dolphins division, is in fact due in 2010 to be scheduled against the AFC North, the Steelers division. And what that means is more than likely the Steelers and Dolphins will again play next year, not in 2009, but next year. It's just a 50-50 proposition as to whether or not that game will be in nearby Pittsburgh or once again in Miami. And just like that, we are out of here. With the dog days of summer now morphing into the first days of camp across the fruited plain, there's much to discuss in the way of storylines, conference races, and the like. Chances are we'll be checking back in soon. We hope you've enjoyed this first ever installment of The Signal Caller. Until next time, may the Mike Backer of life get clogged up in B-Gap on his way to take you down.